So I'm on the line here with Glen Swyers, who I'm just going to make this prediction, Glenn, is going to be the next president of MTAC, the Mailers Technical Advisory Committee, next week in DC. I hope I didn't jinx you, but
Yeah, please don't jinx me, but I guess it doesn't matter because the title is vice chair, so I'm good.
yeah. You know what though? It always starts with vice chair, so like
Yeah, right?
it doesn't matter. And for those of you who don't know, the Mailers Technical Advisory Committee is these are a group of they're the who's who in the mailing and shipping industry that use U.S. Postal Service and meet in Washington D.C. every month. And I think it's fair to say try is probably the word these days after our last PMG, but try to influence the Postal Service to make better decisions to work with industry and so forth. Is that a good framing of that?
I'll take a little exception to that. It's it's amazing what we actually got done.
Oh,
The problem that we have, and we'll get into this with addressing because I think it's appropriate. There's just so much to do that even when you make a tremendous amount of progress, it doesn't look like you've come very high up the mountain. But those intermediate
yo.
steps were critical.
Yeah, and I kind of say that tongue in cheek.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
The open, the Joy's open. We're gonna have open, and then he closes it down to the public and only has MTech members coming there. It's a little, I don't know. We
Yeah,
should take that.
yeah. Don't
What?
jinx me. The lawyers won't be happy.
Right. So I wanted to, I'm talking to people such as yourself that like are top of industry,
Yeah,
know this stuff better than anyone else, and really trying to share that knowledge base with people using CRMs. I have a product, that does
yeah.
NCOA and address verification in Salesforce. But what we're talking about today, I think, really applies to any CRM. So just to kind of preface that, so if you're using a CRM and you have address data in your B2C, this is hopefully going to be good content for you. So,
Yeah.
so hey, speaking of that, I mean, what is going on at MTAC with addressing these days? I mean, is there something that people should be paying attention to?
There's a lot of different things going on. Adam, who leads up that group, is amazing. I think one of the big things that we're working on next, and when I say we, I mean Adam, is the whole concept of undeliverable as addressed, but it's a good address. Um, but
Ah,
there's but and keep in mind, and we'll just kind of dovetail this a little bit. So there's these things called these cast cycles where they come
yep.
out with all these rules, etc. And when you look at where we've come, even in the last few years, um, there was like 5 million addresses a few years ago that were good addresses that still didn't verify correctly. Um, you know, because
Yeah.
they had an illegal character, right? It had a slash, and the original database couldn't handle fractions, right? Or didn't like letters, etc. And so a lot of those things, because of companies like yourself and the input from MTech, etc., keeps working with the post office to nibble away at these things. So every year that goes by, we get better and better addresses. And one of the reasons why that's important, just to kind of go ADD for a moment, is you
I
know
would
what?
expect nothing less, Glenn.
Right. Expect nothing less. You know, you heard those examples years ago of, someone would say Mary and Orchard Park, New York, and they'd throw a stamp on it and it would show up, and the post office says, oh, I know Mary,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and it would get delivered,
Yep.
right? And unfortunately, in 2025, that never even gets to a place where a human being can see that because, at 4 pieces a second, it's going through a sorting machine, it's
Yeah.
OCRing, and if it doesn't see a valid address, return to sender.
Right.
And I think that's probably where people are saying, well, why do I have to care more about my data today? I've mailed that last year and they got it there. I mailed that 2 years ago and it still got there. Why isn't it getting there this year? Well, as the Delivering for America plan, and some people think that's a swear word, but as the DFA has rolled out,
People do the DFA, yes.
well, more like here in Charlotte, they built a brand new facility, an RPDC. They've rolled out all kinds of new sorting equipment,
Yeah.
etc. So there's less human interaction. So if you mailed to somebody last year, maybe it did get to that carrier and got delivered. Well, this year there's new equipment involved. And if you're not thinking about that, you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they're, it's like everything, there's pros and cons to it, right? I mean, I do think people lose sight of these cast cycles and how they really are intended through efforts from people like yourselves and other people in the industry to make
Yeah.
them better, to be that analog to say, hey, these are what people are doing. This is what they expected. We used to, we had the city of Detroit as a client. They still are. I mean, but they were, in the cast cycles change, they were looking for vacant lots. And
Huh.
they're like, and that was kind of the trigger. They're like, yeah, well, we're trying to manage this part of our, our business, our, the business of governance. And, where are these lots vacant? What do we need to be mindful of in measuring that stuff? So it's just a great example of kind of like how those cast cycles have minor changes to them that can have an outcome or an output that really helps an entity. So it's like I kind of poo-poo on verification because the thing is like people do that and then they throw up their arms and they're like, I'm done. And
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, you're done for a moment in time. And that moment in time can be fairly lengthy, right? I mean, it could be, really forever, or it could be, we're making these improvements in these small little areas here. But the national change of address, I think, is kind of where people are really the verification things. They're out there. There's
yeah.
plenty to choose from, and they some of them do a really good job. What they lack is that national change of address and that kind of like the tie to the patient prospect or customer.
No, that's a good point. And one of the other things, um, which the one advantage the national change of address has is it's one database,
Yep.
right? One of the issues that we have in that CAS process with the coding accurate support system or whatever that is, I don't want to,
You're close enough. Yeah.
right? Is that's a group of guiding principles, right?
Right.
So you can have five different CAS engines give you five different results.
Yeah.
But we don't want to, I know we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's good to know that when you're going down this path, all right, at the end of the day, I'm just going to get on my soapbox here. At
That's
the
what
end of the
we should call the soapbox,
yeah,
because that's what it is.
the big thing is always why. Like, why are
Yeah.
you doing this in the first place? And which always goes back to why are you mailing this in the first place? Because I have customers that say, "Oh, why do I want to jump through all these hoops?" And I go, well, why did you mail it? And it's like, well, I wanted it to get there. I go, well, if you wanted it to get there, then we need to do all these steps to make sure that that piece finally gets delivered, right?
Yeah.
So make sure it does have the right name, the right address, and that person actually lives there. And I think, in my mind, that chasm of heart is part of all right. I'm going to standardize the address, so maybe I have Bonnerby instead of Bonnerby Court, right, or Minden instead of Minden Drive. I
Yeah.
got that fixed, but all I've verified is that there's a house at there. I still haven't verified who's there, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
so getting back to my why, right? So if I don't care who lives there, or if I'm a pizza company and I just know people are hungry,
Yeah. And
maybe it
some
doesn't
people don't.
matter.
Yeah, it's geography. Yeah, there's a lot of geography. But what's interesting, what you just said there is like, there's a few things I want to unpack. One of them is that why are you doing it is different from a CRM from someone like yourself
Absolutely.
who's mailing it. And the reason why I say that so much is that it gets to a discount. It gets to a business process to reduce costs and enhance deliverability and eliminate undeliverable as address mail. And as you know, as a first class mailer, I mean that's like the kiss of death. But the other thing that goes back to it is that, and I don't. Boy, is there a huge difference between address quality engines. I mean, like I think when people think about address verification, and like forget about me selling something before
Yeah.
you turn on an address verification and whichever one you choose, test the hell out of it first because it might not be doing what you think it's doing. I mean, I had a guy, Troy Evans. Do you know Troy?
Uh, maybe.
So Troy was he was the founder of PSI, him and his brother,
Oh,
Troy and
yes.
Trace. And you know who he is now.
Yeah.
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 And Troy calls me up one time and he was brokering some work out. And he goes, boy, this printer is just, I mean, they're just not delivering because Troy's a data geek. He's collecting all the data. I said, send that list to me. And he sends it to me and, we send it to it. There's most of the stuff like all validates. And I knew exactly what solution he was using, which I won't mention because I'm not
Yeah.
here to bash on anyone. But I'm like, why would you use that engine? Like it gets you the discount, but you're not delivering anything. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of perverse.
Isn't that the case though? Because so you got some people that literally are going through life, they're just looking at the check boxes,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Did you do
And
this? Or not? Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
do this. I'm gonna do this to check the box. All right, post office. Here's my proof. I deserve my automation discount, right? Give me my 5-digit rates. Um,
Yep.
but if we get back to, well, wait, it's nice that I'm getting the discount, but the reason why I'm mailing this is I need that important critical communication in their inbox,
Right.
right? You're
Right.
right,
That is the point of it. Right.
right? And if you really don't care, if it's a TNC and you're just checking the box, maybe you don't care. But what if this is an organization that you felt that this is an important enough of a contact that you've entered it into your CRM, right? And
Yep.
CRM is a management platform because maybe the life cycle value of that client maybe is 50 grand or 100 grand, et cetera,
Who knows?
whatever it is. So the value really isn't, all right, if I lose track of that client because they moved or that person because they moved, it's not the 39 cents that I wasted in postage, which
Oh,
is
it's
a
the
tragedy. It's
yeah.
the $50,000 life cycle of a client that you lost,
That's the tragedy.
right? Or,
That's the tragedy right there. Yeah.
and I would even do as a sidebar, maybe you don't lose that account totally, but how embarrassing is it when you say, I love you as a customer, you're the most important person to me, and you don't even keep track of where I live?
Well, and so here's why I think this stuff is getting more important. And it goes back to the why, right?
Yeah,
Why are you doing it? Or why do you, I guess from my perspective, why do I think you need this?
yeah,
And agentic AI, if you're if you're in the Salesforce world or really any CRM, you're hearing about AI and agentic AI left and right. You're probably sick about hearing it. The problem with that is what you just said there is they're train these LLMs, they're training them on a certain set of data. And if you're training your LLM on some set of data that doesn't even know where the hell your client's at, you've got a problem. You've got a
right.
problem. If you're sending premiums out, I mean, the person who just moved from Colorado to Florida doesn't need a set of free mittens with your logo on it. They don't. Like it's
Well, have you ever been inside some of those restaurants in Florida? They can freeze you out. But I digress.
Yeah, I have, and I've never thought to myself, boy, I wish I had a pair of mittens, but it's cold as hell in here.
I did. I only say that in a previous life, I tried to get out of this print and mail business, and I spent a year doing market research at the Disney company. So
Uh,
I lived a couple of
there
years
we
in
go.
Florida. So, uh,
Yeah. No.
but even getting to that, to segue back to that though, oh my gosh, we cared about data there. Um,
You know what?
'Cause-
I think, here's the thing you never hear about. We don't care about our data. We don't care about our customers and where they live. Everyone cares about it. I honestly think they don't know what to do or they're doing the things that aren't producing the outcomes that they think they are or that they really desire or want.
do you think we were at National Postal Forum? Tom Glassman and I did a,
Okay, yeah, Tom.
a
Yeah.
segment on demystifying return mail. Um,
You would
and
be a good you would be a good
it,
that would have been interesting. I missed that.
yeah, one of the things that came up was, and Tom was just harper on this. He goes, 48-month NCOA, right? He goes, so let's say you're a medical group, right? And you send out something. Well, that first year, um, they'll go ahead and forward it if it's first class mail. They're
Yep.
forwarding that
Yep.
to you, no
Yep.
problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Year 2 through 4, they're basically letting you know, hey, this thing changed. Um, 49th month, that critical communication gets delivered to the original address as is, and
Yep.
whoever's in that door opens it up and they have access to all your stuff.
Yeah, that's
I mean, so when we're talking with them, it's like, oh my gosh, you mean I'm potentially creating a PII or a HIPAA or
yeah.
some kind of other thing just because I wasn't properly doing my NCOA? And it's like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but
basically,
yeah, well, Mark Ream too. I was talking to
yeah,
Mark, I think last week, and he said something to me that kind of like I really didn't think about it, which is that, you know, and it goes to the business purpose of doing it, right? Well, I'm just doing it to get the discount, and then the thing he reminded me of is he goes, I shouldn't share some of the stuff. I'm going to talk out of school, but I think she'll be okay with it. But Mark said, you know, if you're not updating those addresses and they go back into that print mail provider, and
yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it now because it's outside the database. Guess who's on tab for the fine on that? He goes, companies are getting fined millions of dollars because they aren't running the NCOA. And I'm like, well, they kind of are. They're doing it to get a discount. And he goes, yeah, but if you're not updating it, you're not running it.
Oh,
You're
it's,
not doing it to the spirit of the law, and therefore we want our $3 million back because you claim to be doing this and you're not. Um, I've had
oh,
this
that's interesting.
conversation with a lot of people, and I'm like, and I'm like, why the hell don't you ever hear about that? And they're like, well, who's
I
gonna
mean,
who's gonna
in
promote
the
it?
spirit, I wouldn't say letter of the law. In the spirit of the law, I
No,
hear what he's saying
yeah,
because, and I think that even goes back to, the ACS and the electronic address correction side of life
yep,
too.
yep,
Um, I'm going to go there in 1 second, but just to go back, just to be clear, so if someone's following me on that 48-month deal, you know, if it's a one-way linear path with your data, and I'm just sending it to my printer or some kind of outsource, they're doing a inline address correction. If you don't have that closed
yep.
loop coming back, that person that 2 through year 4 did get it updated to the right address, but you never knew about it because you didn't create that closed loop. Similarly, one of
You know
the
what, Glenn? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, yeah,
the thing is the one thing I fundamentally kind of have understood in the last 10 years doing this stuff is that the loop doesn't work, or if it does, it works for a period of time and then it breaks. And then and this is kind of what got me to where I am right now is that forget about the loop. The loop, like
mm,
just like the loop doesn't work. The loop
yeah,
is broken. And so we've always talked about this, Brian and I, and the people at Tech Mailing is just move it upstream. Get your data
yeah,
quality far upstream as you can. Do it there. And then, if someone else is doing this for another business purpose, like yourself, or a discount, or do the move update, good on them, do it. But like it's do it twice. I mean, but the
right.
thing is,
Like, why not?
yeah, well, I could tell you a bunch of reasons why you
Well, no,
why you
like, why
would.
not do it twice, right? So I'm
Yeah,
saying, if
yeah,
you're, I mean, if NC in a perfect world, you upstream NCOA it, right? You have your address as clean as it can be, knowing that that's for that moment in time,
yep,
and then it goes downstream, it goes to the mailer. But now, instead of getting thousands of updates, now you just got a couple.
yeah, yeah. Just continually do it. So I want to back up a second. ACS.
Yeah,
You know, I think a lot of people. I'm not expecting people who know a bunch about addressing to read this is the CRM community. Can you explain that process, kind of what that does, and why someone would do that? I mean, it's a great service. I'll
yeah.
have you kind of explain that.
So, and I'm just gonna, it's a big topic, so I'm just gonna take one little slice of it. And I'm going to
Sure.
talk about
Yep.
the electronic ACS service that the post office offers to commercial mailers. So if you are providing full service, basically fully qualified address, so I got a 11 digit zip technically, um, the post office will, for free, and I would say not free, but at no charge to you or no cost to you, um, will provide back to you that feedback, right? Of did it get delivered? And this is whether it's first class or marketing mail, which is amazing when you think about it. So if I'm doing,
No, it actually, that part is amazing, to be honest
yeah,
with you. The
so
fact that they include marketing in that kind of blows my mind. Great offer.
but and the reason why is getting back to our talk a little bit before about the guiding principles. The post office loses what, about $5 to $6 billion a year because of the cost of handling undeliverable as address mail. So,
Which, by the way, is a fraction of what the community is losing.
oh yeah, we probably
Like,
20 billion plus, right?
yeah, their loss is nothing compared to the aggregate total of what our society
Print cost
loses.
things, and forget about opportunity loss cost.
Yeah,
Um,
pile it on, figure it out. I mean, it's insane how much this is costing
yeah,
society.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'll just, as much as we're dumping on this, our deliverability is much higher than email. So,
Well, it is. I mean, that is the one nice thing. Mail still works. I mean, and I
yeah,
think that the reason why man, I had some people who are just growing like crazy because they're just their targeting is so tight.
yeah.
But going
And so
back to the targeting thing, if you're using AI and all this other stuff, data quality becomes more and more and more important.
critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and just getting back to the ACS, so that guiding principle of getting that feedback loop in an electronic format, where I think it goes, there's a couple of warnings that I have with electronic ACS. One is the version that comes from the post office is free and you get what you pay for. Um, you literally are getting that 11-digit zip back that's basically serial number of the piece and the reason code. And then if it's if it's a COA, you're getting the actual new address, which is amazing. And it's a good supplement to your NCOA, right? So you have the NCOA, which is a big part of it, and then the post mailing, which is the second part of it coming back. A lot of people don't realize when I say that NCOA or that electronic ACS is no charge, it's only no charge for the first time you get it back. The post office reserves the right, and it's rare that they do this, but they reserve the right. If they keep giving you the same address back, if you don't update your CRM and you keep sending out that bad address over and over again, they have the right to charge you the actual return for that piece. So it's like, be careful. You need to have a workflow in place, in my opinion. You need to have a workflow in place to have that feedback loop of that data.
Yeah,
somehow or another.
Part of the problem, and I ran into a printer that was focused on nonprofits and was really smart about his business. And one of the things in Salesforce is very, I don't know if aggressive is the right term, but they have a great offer for nonprofits. They've got a specific cloud built for them, and it's it's great. The thing is, though, is that when you get those NCOA returns back, it's very difficult for an admin to marry. It's like giving someone a bucket of crap. It's like, oh, okay, here's your bucket of crap. Go, figure it out, sort
Good
it
luck
out.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you some stories here in a sec.
Yeah, when he was smart enough to say, "Hey, what's your instance look like? What are your account numbers like?" And he made it easy. And this is, I mean, good advice for if you don't want to use my tool, do something like this. Give someone your account numbers. Have something easy to marry up, and I guess caveman the hell out of it, but do something. Like that's my message right now is that if you don't want to use my solution, that's fine. I can't help everyone, but do something.
Do so. Absolutely. And to that point, we partnered wrote some stuff ourselves, which is different than what you're doing, but we wanted to solve for that post mailing issue.
Yeah, I think everyone does want to solve for it. I mean, there's no one who's kind of like,
Well, I walked into a customer, and they had a conference room, and it was like the typical 10 by 20 foot conference room kind of a deal. One whole wall was the first class bins, first class tubs full of return mail, floor to ceiling, just packed. And unfortunately, they ended up having to take 3 of their staff members, um, and they were just basically, like I said, cavemanning it, stuck in a room trying to keep it up. Well, get this.
It's just
Here's the disaster. They were hitting these people up once a month, right? They were months behind processing. So here, you see where I'm going here. I take out of this bin, I update it to the new address. Well, then 2 weeks later, I get to the second mailing, which came back because it left before I had a chance to update the data. Now I'm taking 3 times longer trying to figure out because none of the addresses match now because I updated it. And so long story short, what we did for them is we actually created a FTP data push that every Sunday at 10:30 in the morning. And we added all kinds of data modeling, adding their proprietary ID numbers, and more important,
you almost have to. You got to have something to marry the thing. Yeah, that's interesting. I would love to see that stuff bucketized or segmented by Nixie. It would be interesting to see that. Just to kind of see how that tranches. I put something out. And I think this goes kind of the problem space. There's a health cloud in Salesforce, and I'm looking at all the data from Q1 of 2025 for returns for UAA. And they haven't. I mean, like the one thing that I love the Postal Service about is they've got data, and they publish that data, and it's available to you, me, and everyone who knows where to get it. And they had the UAA broken down by vertical.
Yes.
Do you know who has the worst UAA by vertical?
Oh, I forget it. Is it utility? Healthcare?
Yeah, it's healthcare. And ironically, by the way, and I'll throw out a little kudos here. You know what vertical does the best? The U.S. government. Like,
probably.
Like everyone else is here and they're like down here. I mean, they have so much less return.
If I was to guess, it's probably driven by the IRS, but I don't want to.
Yeah, who knows?
They don't lose anybody.
But they're doing something smart with respect to knowing where people are at. They're using it. Okay,
right?
Like people. I'm one of them. I openly shit on my public officials occasionally.
No.
In general, but you know what? Like, why are they getting this so? Why are they getting this so right when the community writ large, the business community writ large, has access to similar types of data sets, and they're getting crushed by government like that? That to me is kind of like,
it's funny you say that. All right, I'm going to jump down this rabbit hole a little bit because you just reminded me of something important. So we were having the conversation at NPF, and actually I think it was some healthcare people were saying, well, we're not allowed to change people's addresses.
Well, that's bullshit. That's not true.
And so Tom goes and he starts listing off these IRS like chapter and verse guidelines.
Yeah, Tom would know that. Yeah,
and it's like, because deep into the IRS's code of like their address quality standards, they made a legal ruling that if somebody goes to the post office and fills out a change of address card, and it becomes part of the National Change of Address database, that is basically legal standing of last known address.
Yeah, well, it's a federal affidavit you're signing that you've moved.
Right.
I mean,
and it's like, and his point is, if that's good enough for the IRS, like, why isn't it good enough for you?
Yeah. Well, Mark Green made the same point. He's like, where is this law? Show me this law where it says you can't change the addresses. I mean, it's just, it's farcically not true, but it can, having said that, it can reside in someone's data governance policy, and it makes it kind of not illegal, but not in the practices of those.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
So what we do for some of our clients that have those types of internal rules, because you're right. Mm-hmm. So you can have rules that are more strict than the general rules, right?
Sure. Absolutely. That's your prerogative.
Right. So what the customers that I find are doing that best is they use a tool like yours. They tag those records of being a change, And
Yeah,
then
no,
they reach out to them.
right.
And they reach out to them because they know that there's value in that. And maybe it's a postcard, maybe it's a letter. A lot of times, it's a letter with a form that basically is asking them to fill out to sign, hey, please update my information. And then we're segmenting off the mailings too, because we go, all right, these ones here we know moved, but we have to mail to the original address. But these ones here didn't. We ran them against the National Change of Address database. We didn't get any hits. We still segment them off so we get the full automation discounts and everything
Sure.
on the
Yeah.
most of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm just laughing at like all the ways you can manipulate postage.
Oh yeah, the system.
It's like that's its own game. I can't get into that,
But it's they make the rules, so we just play by them. And it follows the guiding principles. It gets the mail delivered, and most importantly, it gets the best value for your postage dollar. And that could be another hour, seminar.
I know. What's interesting to me though about the health vertical in particular is that being the age I am, I'm going to the doctor more often than I probably would like to. But I've never not been asked, "Is this your current address? Is this your current address? Is this your current address?" And it's relentless. And in that environment, you're in one of two systems. You're either in Epic or you're in, well, it's Oracle now or formerly Cerner, right? Those are the,
Yeah.
God, I can't tell you how many billions of records we've taken out of those systems to update. The problem with it is, I can't really speak so much to Oracle. But Epic in general just doesn't. They're not a partner in an organization. They would never reach out to an organization and get like ours and say, "Hey, fix this for us." Even though they're in our backyard, basically, I can ride my bike to their campus. It makes it even worse. But the thing is these functionaries, they're in Oracle updating those addresses, but what's ever going on in there is not talking to the billing or going downstream, and like that's why that's happening there. Is that whatever Epic's has in their system of record is not getting pushed down to the mail stream. It can't, because they wouldn't be the worst out of all other sectors. There's something really kind of perverse and strange going on in that environment.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it really is, because there's no other vertical that does a better job at asking you that question. And then they're also the ones that are getting the billing statements and other stuff from the mail. So it's like, it hurts my head even more to know, like, you've got this analog that's going on in real time and the shit still goes to the wrong, like address. Like, how is that happening? How is like, and I haven't really gotten to the bottom of that. And I'm somewhat embarrassed about it. I mean, we do, 500,000 not north of 500,000, but between 400,000 and 500,000 pharma labels a day.
Yeah.
It's just, like, why is that happening? It's mind blowing.
It is. And some of those things happen in other industries as well.
They do, but I mean, other industries don't have that. I mean,
here's
the thing,
because of so many things got merged together. Because I used to work.
I just think there's a bunch of disparate systems that aren't talking to each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If that's the case, this is where kind of I think that like, it's not super expensive to NCOA your database, and the cost benefit is obscene. So like, just keep on running in every environment you have. I mean, back to the kind of like, what's the source of data and is it true or not? Well, there's no truer source than that. I mean, I'll just tell you a quick story that I thought was kind of, it was hilarious in my book, Glen. People probably aren't going to find this very funny. The first time we ran NCOA for Salesforce, the very first time, it was for a theater company or kind of a theater group. Okay.
Yeah.
The Salesforce admin was a performer herself. Okay. So we run this, we go through the data. We're going through all the data with her. Let's explain everything to you. And she's just like, "Scott, this person did not move." And I'm kind of like, this thing doesn't throw out false positives. Like, that doesn't happen. It might not find everything, but it never gives you a false positive. So I'm like, well, why do you, why do you think why do you think that? She goes, "I was just on stage with last night, like on stage with them. She goes, furthermore, Scott, I send them money in the mail. And I said, oh. I said, well, that's a problem. I said, it doesn't happen very often, but I go, if that's the case and you're that sure, you need to contact them immediately because there's probably fraud going on. That was my assumption at that point. It becomes
Yeah.
on at this point, like
Yeah.
very serious. Like this is a serious problem, federal fraud. And so she calls the person up while we're on a phone, like while we're on a video call like this, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but I got divorced and I moved out of the house, and yeah, I did change my address." It happens again. Same call. No, I know this person didn't move. Call them up. Oh no, they
Wow.
moved. But the thing is it was kind of like, I'm in a position where I'm trying to solve a problem, right? And
Yeah.
help people. And I'm also dealing with these people who couldn't possibly be closer in relationship, and and this is going on, and I'm like, wow, it doesn't matter how good you think you know people. They're
Yeah.
You never know them as good as you need to. I mean, it was utterly mind blowing to me.
No, I mean that's a good story as far as like, what? Sometimes people aren't sharing stuff because maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they don't want to, maybe, or when you're going through a life-changing experience like some of those ones you described, the last thing you're worried about is calling
Oh,
up your CRM, you know.
well,
So why not use a tool to update it because they're not thinking of you as much as you believe that you're the most important thing in their life.
I believe that all the time. But you know what? What's funny is here's where I think it's a reminder of is that it's a consumer behavior reminder,
Mm,
right? When consumers, because I think the postal service kind of, I'm not bashing on them this because of this, but like when you fill out that change of address form, like I think they make that's you telling the world you've moved,
yeah.
right? I mean, it really is that kind of powerful. You're telling the move by filling this form out, you're telling the world that you've moved. That's only true if you use the database,
Yeah.
and they're not telling you because they've told the world already, right? I mean, it's
Well, and they've trolled, one of the good things that the post office has, and like you mentioned a few times, it's like the government's not the most trusted agencies in the world, but of the most trusted agencies, the post office leads the
yeah,
pack. Um,
they are, yeah. But the data bears that out.
yeah,
They are the most trusted government agency.
and and a lot of that is because you got 650,000 people, and most of them care. I mean,
Yep. I
more. I mean, when I was at Disney, we always talked about this. The most important thing was guest service recovery, right? And I remember one of my coworkers saying, "Well, why do we have to have guest service recovery?" And they says, "Well, let's just talk about the idiot principle. Is it fair to say that 1% of the population is an idiot?" And he goes, "Oh no, that's a lot higher than that. All right, let's just use the 1%." I go, if you have 55,000 employees working for you,
Yeah,
1% is 550 idiots walking around, right?
right. And we
You
know
know,
that. We know that's a very very generous number.
yes, right. So anyway, so just knowing that, but reality is 99% is 600,000 caring individuals that are trying to get you your mail.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people bash the postal service, but the thing is, you and I think anyone who's worked in the industry has a different experience,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
The fact of the matter is they have some very, very, very sharp people,
Yeah.
and that really, care about what they're doing. I mean, and I think that is the majority of them, you know.
Yes. No doubt.
Um, I think both of us have had the benefit of like once you get kind of in the L'Enfant Plaza, you're dealing with a different kind of, it's different than your BMEU clerk or someone who's getting
And you see
local.
a
Oh, I
difference,
take
I
care
guess,
too.
because you see that the higher perspective, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah, you do.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no doubt. And I just love the fact, you know, I've been blessed to be able to do a lot more college interactions. So one of the
No,
things we've
that was fun.
industry has partnered with the post office, and we're actually going into these marketing departments and spending a whole session just talking about tactile, which is AKA direct mail, right? Um, and you know, when you start looking at the stats, right? We're not 50% of the world's population, but more than 50% of the mail is generated inside the lower 48, right? Um,
Yeah, which is mind blowing because we're not even close, right? I
yeah,
mean, if yeah,
it's just part of our culture as Americans, right? I mean, and I think a case can be made from a business standpoint. I love this fact that, why would our friend, when you look at where the post office is, I won't go down that long rabbit hole, but from the very foundation, when Ben Franklin became the first postmaster, it was all about delivering his newspaper because he knew that the post office was critical for businesses to connect with their customers. I
all
and
the pseudonyms.
yeah, and but when you look at how the American economy grew compared to the rest of the world, you know, it's a stretch, but it's not a big stretch to say that one of the advantages that we had and what helped American small businesses grow compared to when they were over in Europe, et cetera, is the fact that they could reach their customers easier because we had a post office.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's. I think with ecom and kind of, they own that space, and it's getting a little bit more competitive. But the under 2 pound package, they own that
oh yeah,
world. They have access to the mailbox, which other people don't. Gives them a slight advantage. But the universal service standard kind of keeps that. It's a different business model than everyone else's. I mean, it's really interesting. Yeah, I would agree with that. It has helped our country a great deal. It'll be interesting to see how that transforms in the next 10 years with some of the DFA stuff. It'd be interesting if the PMG carries that forward the way it was written.
well, at the time of this recording, he's on like day three. Um,
We should know by now.
right? He hasn't called me. Uh, but
Well, the
no,
last PMG he was never very happy with me. Yeah, I can't speak of that, but yeah, I've been dressed down in a room full of people by him.
well, he wasn't
Probably,
wrong. I'm
well,
just kidding. I was a kid. I'm
dressing me
just,
down is probably not a bad thing, but
but,
I think he was very wrong about.
but the
He
couple
still,
of the things. Well, and I'm interested to see the one thing I did appreciate was um, there was a lot of bad things that didn't go well with Richmond when they rolled out the
yeah.
first thing,
Well,
and
and
and they
subsequent to that, Atlanta too. I mean, there's a
right,
few
it,
things,
and
yeah,
but one of the things that was interesting is um, the issues that they did in Atlanta. They corrected some of what they went wrong in Richmond. Then they went on scale, and in retrospect, looking back, it probably was too big of what they bit off for Atlanta. But when they did Charlotte, again, they made different mistakes. Where in previous generations, what I saw with the post office was they would come up with a plan, and it didn't matter if it failed or didn't. They never changed it. It's like, all right, those are the rules going forward. We're moving it. Um, I think the issue that we had is making those corrections on the fly fast enough,
yeah.
and
It's
maybe some of that was coming from I shouldn't say this out loud, but coming from the industry side of things where you could go in the morning and say, listen, we were going to change these three things, and at lunchtime you come back to see how the changes went. um, and you just can't do that with a boat of 650,000 employees that have multiple unions and 47 different owners manuals.
yeah, it's kind of hard for a person outside the industry to kind of appreciate the scale at which those people operate and
Yeah,
kind of, I mean, 650,000 people, I mean, north of 500,000 people, that's just a tremendously massive amount of people to,
to get on the
to
same page.
Action. Yeah, yeah. And then you throw the union in on top of it, and I think that just kind of is glue on the whole thing and binds things up. And he had a tough job. I mean, so someone was like, "You should be the PMG." And I'm like, "Oh, first off, I'm not smart enough. Second off, I don't work hard enough. Third off, like, say what you want about DeJoy. I think that the guy did. I try to be fair in my assessments. I wasn't a huge fan, but you know what? The guy, I think he gave a shit about what he did. And
Oh, absolutely.
he worked his ass off. I didn't agree with a lot of it, but I'll never do that. It's just, I'd rather have someone go in there that's convicted in what they're doing. He was certainly that and work his ass off. And I don't think anyone would have worked harder than that dude.
When
Um,
he
and some people might point out that, Scott, that's the problem.
well, we'll save that for another conversation for another day. I will say this kind of in closing on this little segment. Um, the last public speech I saw him give was at MTAC. And he made a comment that basically the gist was, we have not seen eye to eye in a lot of things. He goes, but one thing I'll never take away from you guys in this room is the fact of, um, you love this industry, you love
Yeah.
Mel, and you love it as much as I do. And for that, we're all on the same team. And, the takeaway was, all right, you know, there was definitely more of a mutual respect and at the end. But
Yeah, he probably, I think, I mean, in my opinion, his focus is more on packages than mail, and that was kind of a perverse, look at it. Although, one could argue that that's the direction things had to go. I don't
well,
know. Sure.
and just to kind of, I am a huge proponent of mail, obviously. Um, I That's definitely been a concern, but the numbers don't lie. And here's an interesting stat. When I'm doing my when you're looking at the diary reports and the mailing moment, a couple of years ago, the number one reason why somebody would go to their mailbox was because they were getting a bank statement, something from their lawyer. There was some kind of critical communication.
Yep.
In 2024, the number one reason why someone went to the mailbox, they were looking for a package.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
and
Huh.
some of it, it's be careful what you wish for. So when if I'm going to jump down that rabbit hole for a minute, so you as a bank, you love the fact that you're able to get those marketing mail messages out, sign them up for a credit card, get them into a new loan, etc. You love the mailbox for that, but you're also saying, "Hey, I don't want to send you my bank statement." Well,
Yeah, I get that electronically. It's
right,
it,
but
it's different. Yeah.
but by pulling those bank statements and stuff out of the mailbox, though, you've now made it that other channel less valuable to you as well. So
Yeah.
maybe instead of when you're doing your ROI and what does it cost me to mail that bank statement, you should be calculating in as, all right, now am I losing this channel to be able to reach my customers?
Yeah,
Um,
you know what, it's weird how it's continued to, Dennis Farley, I'm sure.
mhm.
Yeah. And Dennis always used to hand out those anchors,
Yeah,
for
the anchor of the
direction
mailbox.
form. Yeah, it's the anchor of the mailbox. And for those who don't know, Dennis Farley, he oversaw the ESPN magazine, I
Yep.
believe. And so his big thing was like publications, anything you get magazine wise, it's the anchor of the mailbox, and that's, and everything else kind of goes on there. That's kind of, it's kind of continues to shift. But the thing is like, like I said, the clients that I have that were doing marketing mail, I mean, a lot of them are just crushing it because of that the analog they have to their clients is so strong in because of the psychographic and data that they have, it's working.
Well, to go down that rabbit hole, you know, the digital marketer keeps saying, oh, well, that's analog, this is digital, we're smarter, we're better, whatever. But here's the deal. I've been digital and direct mail since the 80s.
Yeah, well, everyone seems to crap over everything else they're not doing, but the fact of the matter is it's the combination of, you can't just make a cake out of flour and water. You got to have some sugar, butter, and other stuff, and then you got something. I mean, I
Right.
I don't view it any other way than that. Is that it's it's a mix of things, and those things are, you got to figure out what your client responds to the most and keep on giving more of that. If
Right.
it's mail, great, more mail. If it's digital, I guess do more digital then. If it's a combination of those things, keep on doing that,
Yeah.
but
Well, one of the lines I use, and sometimes it gets me into trouble, but you know, especially when we're in the classroom and we talk about, the cadence of communication, right? And
Mhm.
so I go, the advantage I have, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's the land of Billy Graham. And the Billy Graham organization did a research study, and they found that minimum it takes 10 touches before somebody makes a decision, right? So
Yeah.
my thought is if it takes the Billy Graham organization 10 touches and they have God on their side, what makes you think you can send one email or one postcard?
Well, you're almost implying that other people don't have God on their side, Glenn. I can see
Well,
why.
I just it's it,
Maybe, yeah.
maybe depends what they're selling.
So, I mean, I appreciate your time today. I mean, is there anything wrapping up I mean, owners, focused on the CRM. I mean, we talked a lot about mail and kind of what's going
Yeah,
on. I
on
think
the
that's the thing you need to think about is, one of the, and I'm not sure I made this point earlier, but like if you're going to use an address verification engine, make sure it's one tied to someone doing some delivery because they know what the performance of that product
well,
is and continually, work on it. I mean, you can't get out of that.
and I guess to do a quick summary of all the crazy things that we talked about. It's great that you go ahead and you give your mailing list off to a provider and they do their thing. But if you don't have a loop, if you don't get there, if that original data isn't clean in some way, it's just a matter of time before and what's the stat? How many people move a year?
Well, 12%, so it's a little 100,000 people a day. It's, 30
Yeah.
some
So
million. I mean,
let's go 10%, right? So if 10% of your mailing list goes in and I got a 48 month and I keep mailing, it keeps getting forwarded, but at the post office's side with their tools, et cetera,
yeah.
with my provider over a 4-year period before all of a sudden I get this call from somebody saying, hey, I'm not getting my stuff anymore. Now I have what, 30 or 40% of my mailing list is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Anyway,
mean, and that's the number I use is 4%. 4%, 40% of your mailing list or 40% of the data in your CRM without an update strategy is dust. It's just garbage. And it's
yeah.
the most important thing you probably have from a data perspective. So I can see my daughters.
I guess we're being told to cut this thing off. The
Yeah.
boss is home.
My deaf dog has a loud voice. Glenn, I appreciate your time today. You have a wonderful week and good luck on your the vice chair. Your 3-year term is the MTAC.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. We got a great group, so MTAC's in good hands no matter what happens. So appreciate you, man.
Always a great group. Thanks, man. We'll talk
Thanks.
soon.
All right, bye.